Everybody, Andy here again. I'm out in the countryside today. I've tried to sort of start getting out and doing a few walks recently in the sort of Sussex and Kent countryside with my camera, which you might be able to see down there. And today I've come out to Kent and I'm walking on part of the Royal Military Canal. A place I have walked parts of it before, but I've never walked this particular part before. A bit of history about the Royal Military Canal. It's one of those things that was built. It's a bit like a military folly, I suppose. It was built in the early 1800s, so sort of over 200 years ago now. When England faced the threat of Napoleon and the sort of Napoleonic wars were going on, and lots of defences were built around this area. Some of them being what they call Martello Towers, which are a whole string of like defensive towers along the sea fronts, for all the way from sort of Suffolk, I think, pretty much, right the way round to Sussex as well. And I've forgotten how many of them are, but there's still a lot of them about, and they were started in about 1805-ish. And this, the Royal Military Canal, we felt that, as several times in Britain's history, that Napoleon was setting up for invasion. And this particular area, being very flat, in between the chalk cliffs of the White Cliffs of Dover, that sort of area, and places like the South Downs as well, there's a big flat expanse, Romney Marsh effectively, which is like reclaimed land, and that was felt to be the place that was most liable to be attacked first. And I can understand why, and it was the same later on in the Second World War, which I'll probably come to. So it was thought about doing this, and it was one of those things that actually worked very well, because from these sort of initial ideas that came out to actually being started didn't take very long at all. Partly, I suppose, because of that imminent threat, and I thought, well, something needs to be done here. But also maybe because of the people that were involved. And it was started by a guy called William Pitt the Younger, a very young Prime Minister that we had. And it was one of those projects, yes, it was started, but it was fraught with potential problems. And the whole canal itself actually stretches for about 28 miles, all the way from sort of more or less Folkestone right the way around to nearly Winchelsea. You might be able to hear the birds and that. It's like a blue tit or something up there in the tree. And it sort of cuts a swathe right the way around the Romney Marsh, effectively making it into an island in some ways. As I said, 28 miles long. Some of it used bits of old river, but I think there was over 20 miles of it that had to be completely built. It's supposed to be 60 odd feet in width. If you have a look behind me, you can possibly see down there. That isn't 60. Well, it might be, I suppose, but there's bits of it that aren't. And and you've got a bank on one side. As you can see, I'm amongst trees, but on the other, this is the north side. On the south side, there aren't any trees at all. The reason behind that, supposedly, was because this was like an extra barrier. Obviously, the canal was meant to stop people coming, you know, invading, and it was a watery barrier, I suppose. And it's got banks on this particular side as well, and all the trees on this side, and these would like to give extra cover as well, as were the sort of Martello Towers. But also along here, you've also got pillboxes. As I said, this was sort of 1800s, back in the sort of 1940 or that sort of time, when there was an imminent threat of invasion from Hitler. Lots of pillboxes were put along here as well. Oh, these birds. Hear them. I keep disturbing them wherever I go. I've seen just about everything. So, interestingly enough, the pillboxes were all along here, sort of about half-mile distances, I suppose. And like the Royal Military Canal, were never actually used in anger, so to speak, because by the time the Military Canal was finished, in the sort of 1807-ish or something like that, I believe it was, Napoleon had lost the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805, and his fleet had been destroyed, mainly. And so the threat of danger, the threat of invasion, had diminished, a bit like what happened in the Second World War as well, when Hitler was eventually defeated. But it has served the purpose, because one of the other reasons that this was built, this military canal, was is a sort of a drainage ditch, but also to provide water. In times of flood, it would allow the water to drain off the land, but in the summer, in times of drought, the water would still be there. So it does serve a purpose. It's still there. It's one of those sort of military follies, but actually quite a feat of engineering when you think about it. Back in the 1800s, I've forgotten how deep it is. It's about 30 feet deep, 60 feet across, 28 miles long. That's a fair old achievement there, especially when it was built in a few years with all the problems that there were around. So there you go, a little bit of history for you. A nice walk. As I said, the bird life here is amazing. You go along here, and I've seen, I'll go down here, down the bank. You can see how steep the bank is, and this is 200 years after it was originally built. I've seen egrets, I've disturbed ducks and pheasants, and as I said, woodpeckers, and God knows how many of them they are, little chaffinches or something. So, a nature walk as well as a historical walk as well. And hopefully I've been taking a few photos, and if I post this video, have a look at it, I may well put a few on the end as well. So there you go, little bit of history. I'm walking, by the way, I'm walking about 10 miles of it today. As I said, I've walked the end of it around the Winchelsea area. I went to a town called Ham Street, which is near Ashford. Got off a train, walked down the road. I went to the canal, and you basically just turn left and keep going. Or was it right? Right. Just as when I turned the right way, wasn't it? Yeah, dear, I'll end up in Folkestone. Anyway, thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.